Pie Jesu Domine, dona eis requiem.
All right, happy Easter, everybody. 2 days in a row, so we'll see how long we can keep this going through my own life of distraction. I wouldn't call this a political one, but it might be. So if you are of the easily offended nature, when I talk about Islam, please stop listening. I really have no desire to read any comments or reactions from people who are going to overreact to anything I say. But I really want to take a few minutes here, 5 or less, to talk about Sri Lanka and the very fact that the mainstream media always seems to do the same thing. This is one of the things that I think irritates a lot of faithful people, is that when the mainstream media looks at anybody who is Christian who has done something, they will always presume the worst. They will happily generalize about things and always presume that it is coming from the worst of Christian intentions or motives. However, if somebody in Islam does something, they want to make it very clear that the first thing we should be worried about is backlash. I still remember that from 9/11. You know, we just had a horrific attack on the country, and the next day they're talking about we fear Muslim backlash. Okay, there could be some backlash, but I wouldn't put that as my top concern and my main talking point. You know, we have to be honest, and nobody wants to be honest. Radical Islam is evil. It is a vile belief. I'm not saying all of Islam is, but radical Islam is every bit as destructive to society as leftism is. Be a liberal, I don't agree with you, but I at least know you do care. If you're a lefty, you don't care about anything other than your own power, which is sadly exactly what radical Muslims care about, justified by their creed. And the attacks in Sri Lanka were more than just actions against Easter worshippers. They were deliberate attacks on Christians on our highest holy day. And that's something worth talking about. And you won't find it talked about in the media because they're evil. The media is self-serving. They're their own religious cult in my mind anymore. They have their main talking points. They have their adherents. They have their allies in society and culture, and they're locking down. And one thing they will do is always side with Islam. Again, pacifistic Islam I don't have a problem with. If you're a pacifist Muslim, I think that'd be great. If you're radical, you're toxic, you're vile. And if you're moderate, there's a good chance you are an enabler. That when push comes to shove, you wouldn't stop the radicals from doing their atrocities, and you certainly wouldn't criticize them for fear they'd come after you. Although, worth noting, the #1 killer of Muslims in the world are other Muslims. So it's not a happy world out there. I wish the children of Abraham were not killing each other. And I would like a world where we could have mutual trust and we wouldn't have anybody adhering to creeds of violence. I don't like creeds of violence for medical Muslims. I don't like creeds of violence from any supposed white nationalists out there advocating it. Any espoused creed that does not fit in well with humanity should be hunted down and eradicated. You know, those beliefs need to be minimized as much as possible. It used to be you could ostracize them and they'd be fringe. I think the internet emboldens people far too much. I mean, look at Twitter. Twitter is amazing how it emboldens people. It has become a driving reality in our news cycle. That's one of the oddest things. I really don't get it. Why the mainstream media turns to Twitter, maybe because they just like feeding the frenzy. And they know that maybe somebody will pay attention to them if they're following them on Twitter or reacting to a tweet. Anyway, that's an aside, so sorry. But radical Islam is evil. And I pray for the people in Sri Lanka. When you look at the correspondence coverage of what ISIS did, it is minimal. Anytime the mainstream media wants to harp on radicals, it is almost always Christians, and they're hoping it's some old white guy like me wearing a MAGA hat, draping a flag, an American flag on one side, and a Confederate flag on the other, hoping to do my thing. And that's really sad. That's how biased they are. That's why they don't think attacks against Trump supporters are a bad thing. In their mind, Trump supporters have it coming because they're racist, or they believe in a liar or a cheat. Anyway, crickets are calling, and I must go. So peace, and talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.